You came here to do something. And I'm encouraging you, don't rule it out saying, well, I don't know if you can do it. Well, so what? Eye has not seen. What do you think that means? There's some things that you can do that you've never seen before. We're in a place now where we've never been before. Eye has not seen, ear has not heard. Nor is in the heart of mankind what God has in store for you. What's in you that you're able to do. That's why they have a term called breakthrough, that your life is a breakthrough moment. And so when I think about that and think about what I was going to share with you today, that this is a time. I have a friend named Dr. Stan. They call him Dr. Breakthroughs, Stan Harris. And he talks about living your life in a way in terms of having breakthroughs. And I think we should have those in various areas of our lives, that we must live with a sense of urgency, one, and two, and that's making every moment count. And the other thing is have breakthrough thinking. Look at ways in which in various areas of your life that you have breakthroughs, that you take your performance to the next level. That those things that you've been talking about and you've been operating at this level, but now you're at a place now, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to take it to another level. When I was a kid, the high jump in the Olympics was 6 feet. And a guy named John Thomas was a brother he was a high jumper and had the record in the world. And so during that time when you jumped, as kids, when we played in the backyard, we would have somebody hold a stick and you run and you would just jump over it. And then, but he developed a strategy. Most people were just jumping forward to jump over it. But he developed a strategy that you could sizzle, and what they call the sizzle, that you raise your leg and that front leg, and then the other leg come behind it, right? Then there's something that came along called the Fosbury Flop. Same event, but there's a guy, it was named after him. And when he jumped, he was able to raise his body high enough in the air and he would go over the pole head first and bring the body behind him. Same event, but different strategy. And as a result of that different strategy, he was able to maximize his impact. He was able to jump 7 feet that you couldn't do it physically, just using the method that had been used or that approach up to that particular point. Now, tell me what you mean, Les. I'm trying to stay with you. Well, here's what I mean. That there's some things that you are doing and that you perhaps have not succeeded using the approach that you now have. And that many people, when they're going after their goals and dreams, they have failure after failure after failure because they are doing something in the same way. I think that's why Einstein said that thinking that has brought me this far has created some problems that this thinking can't solve. And that's when I came to the concept, and I want you to get my book called You Gotta Be Hungry. And so what happened is that as you look at your life, a lot of people, when they fail over and over and over again using the approach that they now are using, they stop. I'm suggesting change your approach, but don't change your decision. Am I making sense to you? Change your approach. Get some help. I believe ask for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong. And ask for help and don't stop until you get it. Because you've failed at it thus far does not mean that it can't be done by you. It's just that the approach that you're using now does not work. And there's some things that we're supposed to do that many people using the same method, the same team, the same relationships, the same information, the same approach, and they stop saying it can't be done. I remember as a kid, we used to say to illustrate whether or not someone can accomplish something and whether or not they could not, to illustrate the impossibility of them accomplishing something, we would say, oh, you got a chance of doing that as a man going to the moon. Shut up, get away from me. Hey, we've gone to the moon. We don't say that anymore because when I was a kid, it was seen as impossible for man to go to the moon. That's no longer a reality. The Wright brothers, when they were able to create a vehicle that was only up in the air for about 6 seconds, up to that point, the belief was for centuries, man couldn't fly. Because if God wanted man to fly, he'd have given him wings. You will never fly. You're not a bird. Get used to it. You're not even a pigeon. Get used to it. Might be a pigeon in your thinking, but you cannot fly. That was the belief. But the Wright brothers, who came alone, and their father was a minister, and that was his belief, they had breakthrough thinking, and they changed the approach on what it would take to transport our bodies in the air. You came here to do something. Some people know right away. Nina Simone, who climbed up on a piano at 5 and started playing by ear. Some people know right away of what that is. And there are some, the majority, because they have not been exposed or seen something, that they have the abilities of greatness that they have within them that they can do, but they have not seen anybody doing it yet. So they don't even try. That's why one of the most important things we can do for our children is expose them to things so that they can begin to see themselves in other people. When I was at Booker T. Washington High School, when I saw Mr. Leroy Washington, I was exposed to this man who said to me, young man, go in front of the room and work this problem out for me. Oh, sir, I can't do that. Why not? I'm not one of your students. Look at me. Yes, sir, go and do what I'm asking you to do anyhow. I can't, sir. And then the other students started laughing, saying, he's DT. He's got a twin brother, Wesley. Wesley is smart. He's DT. He asked, what's DT? He's the dumb twin. And I said, I am, sir. And he came from behind his desk and he looked at me. He said, don't you ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. And so how people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. And because I was called the dumb twin, because when I was in the 5th grade, I was put back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade, and Mrs. Mary Ford Williams, who was the principal at Douglas Elementary School in Overtown in Miami, came in and said, please point out the kids that are causing all of the problems. And I was among those. They can't learn. We're gonna put them in a special class by themselves. The kids called us the Dodos. I was in the Dodo ward. Bullying didn't just start. That's how they bullied us. We were the Dodos ward. We ate together and we were in the class by ourselves. We only went with other kids to the cafeteria at eating time, at lunchtime, and physical education. Other than that, the Dodos were all in one room because the belief was we could not learn. We were dumb. And then this man spoke. Because now in your Dodo ward, they don't give you anything to do but entertain each other, and you color, and you play, and you clown around. Because the belief was, there ain't gonna be nothing. No one, listen to me, write this down, please. No one, I don't care what anybody tells you about your child. No one, they should label jars, not people. No one rises to low expectation. And when you have low expectation for people, you treat them in a certain way. Did you hear what I just said? You treat them a certain way. How you look at them, how you talk to them, what your expectations are for them, and the tools that you make available for them, and the time, the energy, and the effort that you put in with them. People learn differently. I'm among those. I can't write a speech, but guess what? I can give you a speech. Writing it just straight out, that's not my style. I have to talk into a computer or a recorder and have it transcribed. That's my style. Everybody have their own style of how they approach this thing called life. And with the help of a Mike Williams, I went from just speaking and clowning in class and speaking at churches and elementary schools and high school to speaking at major corporations around the world. What happened? Same speaker, same person, but I met someone that showed me, here's how you can have a breakthrough in your ability with that gift of gab that you use when you're playing a card game called Bid Whist. Oh, you've never been to Boston, I'll take you there. That same personality that you use when you're playing cards and when you're playing chess. Oh, the game at first, it was called Hess, but my middle name is Calvin. And so they put C in front of H-E-S-S after me. See, that same personality, he took this person that you see now that was labeled educable, mentally retarded, and took this voice and this story and a different approach that allowed me to be able to change people's lives. When Miles Monroe, Dr. Miles Monroe, I talk about him a lot. I miss him. He said, rob the cemetery of your genius. Just look at your life right now. I'm asking you to look at your life. Just begin to review yourself. This distance that you've come thus far, that distance is longer than the distance that you have left. And I encourage you, if you're ready to maximize that, I encourage you, if you're ready to live from your greatness, I'm encouraging you, if you're ready to take a chance on you, well, what if I don't make it? So what? Nat Turner, he never lived to see us being free, but he struck a blow that ultimately broke the back of slavery. And millions of other brothers and sisters. Live with a sense of urgency. Be willing to change your approach. Get some help. Most people won't ask for help. Why? Because of pride. Pride cometh before a fall. Because of ego edging God out. It's a time you got to live this same life like you mean business. Like you mean business. If you believe this is a different time, you know, time is so different. It seems like the days are faster now. I don't know if it's because of my age, but it just seems like they're gone. That's gone. Here's what I know. The older you get, it seems like you don't get 30 days out of the month. You get about 15 or 20. And if you owe a lot of money at the end of the month, you might get 2 weeks out of a month. But that's the way it's. Didn't I just pay that bill yesterday? Don't tell me I know I just paid that bill yesterday. No, Daddy, no. I'm telling you, it seems like when you owe a lot of money, it just the time go by so fast. I can't believe it. It seems like, oh my goodness, the days are just flying by. And when I wake up in the morning, I look at myself and I always say, I thank God for being able to wake up this morning in my right mind. All things work together for good for those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose. Lord, whatever I face today, together you and I can handle it. What day is it you said? I believe that life is for living, for loving, and being healthy. And living a meaningful life, a purposeful life. Why purposeful? Well, because it narrows your choices. I spent time talking to my son last night. I said, I don't have a void in my life because I don't know who my father was that I'm aware of. I'm adopted, okay? But what I was saying to him, I said, the conversation that I'm going to have with you right now is a conversation if I knew my Father that he would have with me. And right now, I'm feeling that. I'm going to talk to you and share some things with you that I've seen, that I've experienced. And ultimately, it's your call. It's your choice. But I've seen a thing or two. I know a thing or two. I can't make the choices for you. All I can share with you to minimize the pain and disappointment and just living a life that's not you, that does not represent the highest that's within you. I'm going to talk to you now about some things that I'm encouraging you to do so that your future you, your future life that's in you will say, man, I'm glad you did that. Wow, I'm glad you made that choice. I said, are you with me? He said, yes, sir, Dad. I said, don't you have anything to say? Well, he said, well, I'm not going to argue for my limitations. All right, because I was telling him about something. I said, you don't want to do that. That's not going to help you. Make choices and ask yourself the question, is this going to bring the best out of me? Is this moving my life in the direction that represents the highest that is within me? Or is this going to take me down a path at some point in time I will regret that I made this choice? Robert Frost, come forth, please. Two roads diverge in a yellow wood, and I selected the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The road to life is straight and narrow, and few there be that find it, because few there be that are willing to be disciplined. Few there be that are willing to listen. Few there be that are coachable. Few there be that are willing to leverage the experiences of other people so they can maximize their impact in this thing called life. You can't tell them anything. There's nothing worse than arrogance and ignorance. People who think they know and they don't know. If you're not one of those people and you're ready to be coached, or you're ready for breakthrough thinking, as Dr. Stan would say, Dr. Breakthrough. Yeah. Hello, I got it like that. As Reverend Ike would say, you can't lose with the stuff I use. Oh, behave. Why are you laughing? You got to laugh today. You got to find ways and create special moments. I'm creating a moment that we spend together. You're going to be saying to some of your friends, you know what? I watched that crazy boy Les Brown, Mamie Brown's baby boy. He had me rolling, child. He needs some help. He a little touch in the head, really. He cut his flat top off too. Yeah, he used to be looking like Kid and Play from House Party. Yeah, he cut the flat top off. Somebody got to him. No, they did not. Not. I just did it because it's a new year. I'm going to get it done in 21. There's some things I'm determined to do, determined to accomplish. What is it that you're determined to do? That you are determined to accomplish, that you've been going at it again and again and again, and you fail, and now you're ready to quit, or you've already quit. I'm saying to you, come, Lazarus, come forth. Had to call him 3 times. Come on, you got the power to come out of there. Lazarus, didn't you hear me? You know something. People watch and say, I think Jerusalem Slim has lost it. He called and we told him the man's dead. Yeah, there are a lot of people walking around with a lot of potential in them that's dead. Greatness in them, that's dead. Genius in them, that's dead. Abilities and talents that need to be resurrected, that's dead. Greatness and abilities to change the world that need to be called forth 3 times. Lazarus, come forth. Whoa, wow. He said, brothers and sisters start running from everywhere. Oh, my Lord, good Lord. That's a good google-moogle. They said, he's on fire. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Wow. The distance that I have traveled so far is longer than the distance I have left. Is that the same for you? We don't know how much time we have left. If that's the same for you, have you had some setbacks and failures and you have convinced yourself it can't be done? No. Change your approach, but don't change your decision. Get some help, because by changing your approach and getting some help, you can take your performance and your impact to another level. By getting the right help and the right coaching, you can live a life that will outlive you. Oh, you have greatness in you. Yes, absolutely you do. It's not judged by how much money you have or your materialistic possessions. It's not judged by that. No. I've never seen an ambulance or hearse at a funeral carrying some money behind it, or furniture, or home, dragging all that stuff out to the cemetery. No. They don't bury you with homes, with your brand new car, your Rolex watch. No, you're gonna leave it all here. When Howard Hughes, who was the richest man in the world, died, somebody asked on the plane, how much did he leave? And the answer was, all of it. Guess what? Vi Clark, my friend who passed, she said, life don't owe me any change. I've lived life my way. Live your life in such a way that life don't owe you any change. Or you got a goal, a dream. Just say, I got this dream that keeps showing up and it's up in my face, something that I want to do with my life. Okay, all right, I got you, I know that. I had this goal and dream of buying my mother a home, and I did it. I'm working with somebody right now who they have the same dream. I said, good, I'm gonna show you how to do that. They came to me, and we have a form that people fill out where we vet and find out, what is it you want to do? What's your goal? What's your dream? If you are hungry to win, if you're hungry to overcome your fears, if you're hungry to learn how to use your voice, if you're hungry to live a larger life, if you're hungry to live a life of adventure, Helen Keller said that life is either a daring adventure or it's boring. If you're hungry to transition out of a job that's not you and want to learn how to do something that is you, if you are in that kind of place and you know that you just feel it in your heart of hearts, the best is yet to come. The best in me is yet to come. What I've gone through will not define me. The best is yet to come. Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. The best is yet to come. You are more than a conqueror. The best is yet to come. Be with that, know that, and live your life from that place of power.
Widely known as one of the most inspirational, motivational speakers in the world, helping Fortune 500 companies to small business owners to everyone in between really tap into their greatness. You're an inspiration to myself and so many people. And you've got a book called You've Got to Be Hungry that's out right now that is doing incredibly well, and it's 20 years in the making. And I'm curious, we've been talking just before this, which we'll add in the interview, about racial injustice, which you've been a big proponent of speaking out against for many years, and your time working in Ohio in government, and your time working in radio as a speaker, as all these different areas of your life. But you've just been through a lot personally of challenges in your life. From, we have a similar story of growing up dyslexic, with learning disabilities, with challenges in school. I remember the story you shared in our last interview in 2017 about teachers just calling you dumb and things like this. I feel very connected to that story because of my experiences in school. And yet you've overcome so many challenges in your 75 young years. Can you share the biggest challenge you've had to overcome?
The biggest challenge I had to overcome, and it's a continuous challenge, is allowing myself to see myself beyond my circumstances and mental conditioning, to live out of my imagination rather than my history. When you are raised in a culture that constantly demean you, marginalize you, and stifle your potential to move forward. I remember reading a quote by a guy named Richard Wright, who said, "The impulse to dream has been slowly beaten out of me through the experiences of life." So just imagine in 1963, when I graduated from high school, now that's a long time ago. my grandson said, "Grandpa, how old are you?" And I said, 75. He said, "You are old." In 1963, here's what the statistics were in 1963. That if you're an African American, you're the last hire and the first fire. If you're an African American, that a white college trained Black person has less of a chance of getting a job than a white high school dropout. That's in 1963. Wow. According to the Federal Reserve, that still exists. So just imagine when an African American graduates from college and in debt, that a white high school dropout today will earn more money, 3 times more money than that Black college graduate. 3 times more, all right? Why? Because of his paint job. I'll never forget, Louis, I saw an interview with Larry King, and this white supremacist was being interviewed, and he said, "Tell me, why do you hate Black people?" He said, "Because they're Black." So, and he said, "And?" He said, "And I'm white." So Larry said, "What did you have to do with that?" And this white supremacist said, "What?" He said, "What did you have to do with your being born white?" And he didn't have an answer. He just got quiet. And Larry, in that question, that strategic question, it created an aha moment, hopefully, for that young man. I saw this video yesterday. This lady said, "I've got grandchildren. I hate y'all, and I'm teaching my grandchildren to hate you too."
Wow.
Yes, and I'll never forget when I was on a bus coming back from Miami Beach with my mother, and they had signs on Miami Beach that said, "Jews, dogs, and coloreds not allowed." And so I asked my mother, I said, "Mama, why do they hate us so much?" And she said, "Leslie, I don't know, but don't you ever be like them. Don't you ever be like them. God is love, and he who dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in them. You love people regardless of how they treat you." That grabbed me, because when she could have very easily, because of the experiences that she'd had, it taught me to be hateful, because hatred is taught. It's people not born with that. And a little boy asked me, a second grader, "What do you mean by you gotta be hungry?" I said, "The greatness within to win." I said, when the average person start out in life, don't realize the odds are stacked against them. And you have got to call on everything in you to get ahead. I said, "How old are you?" He said, 7. I said, "When I was 5 years old, I was downtown Miami, and it was like 95 degrees. And I ran to a water fountain. I was with my mother. The neighbor said, 'Mamie, we can watch the other 6, but you're gonna have to take Leslie with you because he's a little touched in the head.'" So they didn't want to keep me. So I let my mother's dress go. We went downtown with her. We would hold her dress because she would walk real fast. And I ran up to this water fountain, Louis, and I started drinking water from it. And my mother said, "Don't you ever do that again." Grabbed me by the neck. And I talk about this in the book. And she started punching me and in the face and the head. And I was shocked. I said, "Mama." She had this crazy, it's me, Mama. And all of a sudden, a white police officer came by and he said, "Okay," he had a billy club in his hand, "you can stop beating that little boy now. I won't have to beat him." And that's me, Mama, and just laughed.
Wow.
As he walked away. Mother, she grabbed me and I was crying and she said, "Leslie, I'm so sorry." But when I saw the redness in his face and how he had his billy club out and he was coming to beat you with it, she said, I had to do something to distract him. She said, because had he hit you with that billy club, he would have had to kill me.
Oh my God.
Brothers and sisters to themselves, you have no relatives. And at that moment, 5, I knew that there was 2 worlds. I was in a world where I was limited, where I could, what water fountain I could drink from. When we got on the bus, there would be seats up front, and there would be a yellow line, and there were standing room in the back where Black people were seated, and Mama would say, "Keep moving." I said, "Mama, there are seats up here." "Did you hear me say, keep moving, keep moving?" So when you are in that kind of environment where you are judged based upon nothing other than the color of your skin, that's very humiliating. I had another experience that that really tilted the scale for me being the person that I am. And because I love my mother, I'm a mama's boy. I always say, this is the Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. and so I was determined that I was going to create a world that my mother could live in and not be humiliated and to not be held back, and a better life than she had lived in Stuart, Florida, and what I experienced coming up in Miami. Being African American, there were so many things. It was just a part of the culture, things that exist now. But to believe and understand that it's going on now, it's surprising. But what is heartwarming is the broad scale support. Something Benjamin Franklin said. He said, change will never come about until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are.
Wow.
Okay? And so you have white people who are unaffected by this, but they're outraged. They're saying, hey, this is not right. And they're putting themselves in harm's way. I saw one white lady, they shot her with rubber bullets and she lost an eye. She's permanently blind in one eye. And so there have been places where the white turnout and other groups are very strong of people, a sense of humanity, saying this is not America. And it's been sustained because the people can see it. And to see George Floyd have his life taken away. The guy who did that, one of the guys who was right there near him, where he could have said to the cop that was on George Floyd, "Come on, man, come on." He said he can't breathe. "Come on, it's 4 of us. He's handcuffed. He can't get away from us. Come on, get your knee off his neck." He didn't do this. So this lady saw one of the guys in the grocery store who was charged with complicity. And she said, "Do you have any regrets?" He said, "No."
Wow.
No. So therefore, he felt it was okay to take this guy's life for a $20 counterfeit bill. that they found not to be counterfeit.
Mm.
You know, so to lose your life and someone say, when you are asked, do you have any regrets? And you say, no. Man, let me tell you something, that's heavy. That says a lot.
Yeah. Do you feel like we haven't really progressed that much at all? Or is there progress?
No, I think there's been great progress. There's no question about that. No question. You just have people who, this is for the first time under this leadership that we have, that feel comfortable coming out. So there are people that this level of hatred has been instilled in and passed on generation after generation after generation. What makes it seem so pervasive and so dominant has been the exposure. It's never been exposed like this. The internet, that's why North Korea and various dictatorships don't allow media to have the right to expose things, the inequities and the unlawful behavior in their country, including our country. Had it not been for the internet, we would not know about this, because the television executives had a meeting after the Rodney King riots and say, when something like this happens again, we will not show it. Wow. We will just report it. Okay, so, but the internet, because of the telephones, now these cops have been getting away with murder. They can't just get away with it. Although even when they go to court, 93.9% get off, never go to court. And of those who are indicted, maybe around 2% are sentenced and found guilty, because the judge and the prosecuting attorney is on the side of that officer. So well,
I feel like they can always make a case, I guess, for, well, he was attacking me and this is in the law on how we can defend ourselves as police, right?
When they asked the cops, why did you beat this guy that I said, this man served our country in Vietnam. He should not be treated like that. He was holding a baby. And they said he was fighting with one hand. And okay, come on. When I was on the air, and this is in the 80s, I editorialized against police brutality and deadly use of force. They said he had a threatening stance, so I shot him. One guy I'll never forget, he was in a car and police approached the car and they shot him 5 times. And they said he held his hand up, even though he didn't see a gun, but he moved his finger and he thought that he had a gun. And so they killed him and they got off with it. So they come up with any type of flimsy excuse. I think my life was in danger. Like the guy here in Atlanta was shot 5 times in the back, and they said they thought he was going to turn around and shoot with a taser. And the truth of the matter is that cop was mad because his taser was taken away from him. So he pumped 5 bullets in him. So no, there will not be a trial here. It's taking place now. That level of madness and lack of value for human life, it's deep in the culture, but
how did you personally? Yeah, and how did you personally overcome so much from racism as a young child when your mother essentially had to beat the crap out of you in order to defend you from the police beating you up even more, to not being able to sit anywhere on the bus that you wanted to go on, to just having the challenges in school, to your career? How did you personally learn the skills to overcome so many challenges in the world, in your internal mind and world, and in life? The title of the book, You've Got to Be Hungry, the greatness within to win. Greatness comes out of adversity. And the defining moment for me was when my mother was working for a lady named Miss Harris. I was responsible for cleaning some spots off the floor. My mother was called by Miss Harris. She said, Mamie, I want you to go in another room and find a hat that I'm looking for, the one I had 3 Sundays ago. And when my mother went in that room, I heard a slapping sound.
I heard my mother clapping her hands. And I said, Mama, I was curious. I said, why are you clapping your hands? She said, don't you worry, Leslie. You just keep on doing what you're doing and get those spots up off the floor. Then she came out of the room and she said, Miss Harris, I don't see it in there. So she said, well, go in this other room. And Mama went in the other room, and sure enough, she started clapping her hands again. And I said, Mama. She said, what? She was aggravated now. I said, why are you clapping your hands? She said, didn't I tell you to do what you're supposed to do? But at that moment, Miss Harris came over and she stood over me. She said, I can tell you why she's clapping her hands. And I stood up and I looked in the eyes. Now, during this time, as a Black person, you were not allowed to look white people in the eyes. You should always look down, okay? Or you could be arrested or beaten. So I looked her in the eyes, and she said, the reason that I have your mother clapping her hands, when I have colored people working for me, and I can't see them when they go in another room, I make them clap their hands to make sure they're not stealing.
Oh my goodness.
I said, ma'am, I said, Miss Harris, let me tell you something. My mother does not steal. When she talk about you and your family, she say, I work for Miss Harris, and she talk about our children, and she knows all your children's names and their birthday. My mother is an honest person. She'll never steal from you or anybody. And she was so shocked that she just looked at me and she just turned and walked out of the room. And when I got back down on that floor, Lewis, and started scrubbing that floor, I said, nobody will never make my mother clap her hands again because they think that will be stealing. I remember going back on the bus and I was quiet, and she said, Leslie, why are you so quiet? I said, because I'm not a man. I want to be a man. She said, you'll be a man soon enough. You're 10 years old. How long before I become a man? 8 years. I want to become a man now. She said, why? I said, if I was a man now, Mama, I can buy groceries for us. Listen, Mama, and we won't have to wait till the people you work for eat and then give us leftovers. If I was a man now, I would not have to wait until somebody's worn clothes for a year and we wear their hand-me-down clothes. And if I was a man now, nobody will ever make you clap your hands because they think that you're stealing. She said, Miss Harris told you that, didn't she? I said, yes, ma'am. That's why I want to be a man now. And she just got quiet. She said, Leslie, don't worry about it. Just be a good boy. Be a good boy. And I said, I will, Mama. I'm going to take care of you. You'll never have to work again when I turn 18. When I turned 18, I took care of my mother until she passed at 89. She never paid another bill. I worked. Yeah, that tilted the scales.
That experience, that moment.
Yes. That to make her, she was such a wonderful person, only had a third grade education. And I always say I'm on programs, I said, because of two women. One gave me life, the other one gave me love. God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. So she was quite a woman. Yes, she was. I'm a mama's boy, as you can detect.
Yeah.
One of the things I love that you just said is the whole idea of acceleration. That this is a season of acceleration. And I would love for each one of you to register right now to find out how you can accelerate your success and your prosperity. A lot of people have shifted themselves into neutral, Mr. Brown, and they're just coasting it to the end of the year. But this is the time that you need to now put it in high gear and start moving towards your destiny, your purpose, putting as much energy as you possibly can in defining how you want 2023, 2024, 2025, and onward. You don't just have to have a most amazing year. You can have an amazing decade. You can have an amazing life. And you cannot do it by keeping your life in neutral. You've got to shift it in gear. And
I'm glad you mentioned that, because
to do that.
Yeah, part of shifting your life in another gear, a higher gear, you have to look at your relationships and ask the question, what are my relationships doing to me? Scripture asks the question, what fellowship does life have with darkness? None. Life is like an elevator, as you're aware. And the higher you go up, you have to stop and let some people off.
Yes,
and
yes.
A lot of people are not going to finish their year strong and live the life they want to live because they have too many toxic, negative, energy draining family members and friends in their life.
Low value and no value. I got to add that.
Absolutely, yes. And so you have to ask the question, what is this relationship doing to me? Mm-hmm. Am I growing mentally and emotionally and spiritually? There are people that are always there when they need you, but when you need them, you can't find them. And so when you begin to look at that, the studies indicate you earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. When I found that out, I got all the broke people out of my life. I said, y'all got to go.
You give yourself a going away party.
Yes.
Go up with your balloons and your cake that says Bon Voyage. And they're going to say, oh, you didn't have to do it. No, I didn't do it for you. I'm doing it for myself. And I often say, could things be the way they are because you are the way you are? And what one thing can you change that can change everything? You could change your mind. Nothing about your life has to remain the same. You have full control over your destiny. Your future doesn't come from outside of you. It comes from inside of you. And, again, there's a saying that you can never outperform your current concept of self, nor can you rise above the level of your self-worth.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because in order to finish your year strong, one of the most important things we have to do is to address what you just mentioned. Many of us are blocking and preventing ourselves from moving forward and finishing the year strong because of things that we have experienced, because of things that we've gone through. And I want people listening to us right now to write this down. You might be through with your past, but your past is not through with you.
Mm-hmm. I just love it.
What does real success mean to you?
Living a life as you, a life of service, and committing yourself to leave the world in better shape than how you found it, making your life a gift to the world. Next question, please.
Love it. And the final question is, what is something about Les Brown that we will not find on Google?
That I'm a big kid. I'm mischievous. And I have this mischievous part of myself that most people will never begin to measure. Let me give you an example. I saw this presentation I gave to Procter & Gamble, and I didn't have a PowerPoint presentation, and everybody there, they were all PhDs and MDs, and it was a $600,000 contract. And when I walked in the room, they said, Mr. Brown, where's your PowerPoint presentation? I said, I am the PowerPoint. And they gasped. And I did my presentation. And before I left, the man who was conducting it said, Mr. Brown, can you come back, sir? And I said, yes. He said, I never thought I would see you again. He said, my mother saw you in an airport. He said, I was around 5 or 6 years old. And at that time, you were married to the singer Gladys Knight, who did the recording, Midnight Train to Georgia. And she was so glad to meet you, and she asked you for your autograph. And then you asked her, who is this little man with you? And she said, he's my son. and you kneeled down and you got close to me and you said, "Whoa, I see greatness in his eyes." And you looked up at my mother and said, "Oh, he's going to kneel down. You're proud. I see greatness in his eyes. Come closer." "Yes, it's there." "Oh, you're going to make your mother so proud." And he said, "It was not just that. When you stood up and walked away and my mother was looking the other direction, talking to people saying, 'That's Les Brown?' And she was saying, 'Yes.' She said, 'You looked at me and I was watching you and you saw me watching you and you wiggled your knees. You just shook your knees together.' And I said, 'Mama, look at him. Look what he's doing with his knees like a little kid.' And she said, 'He didn't do that. And you were walking straight.' And he said, 'I'll never forget what you did. And like you were a big kid. I can see your knees now. You did your knees.' And I did it again in a meeting. And he said, 'Oh my God, you got the contract.'" I mean, he remembered me doing my knees, shaking my knees together, making a gesture that kids would laugh at. He said, "You made me laugh that day. I'll never forget. And you made me feel special." One of the things I teach my speakers, who you are when you don't have the microphone and how you treat people that most people don't consider important says a lot about your character. That day was an unforgettable day for me. I'll never forget your kneeling down, looking me in the eyes. Let me share you where I got that from. When a group of people gathered to stone a prostitute, Jesus came upon them and they said, "He kneeled down and looked her in the eyes." He didn't talk down to her. He kneeled down and looked her in the eye and said, "Go and sin no more." That said a lot to me. That he didn't look down on her because they said she was a prostitute. He kneeled down to look her in the eyes, to recognize the divinity in her, and said, "Go and sin no more." So when I see children, rather than look down to them, I kneel down and have conversations with them, and they won't forget it. Because most people talk and don't even acknowledge that they're there.
Wow.